We'll start with Kevin Dupont.
A rare leadoff appearance. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go.
Great, thanks. Bruce, Dallas is on a good run here, and Hudobin's in net. And I know you liked him when he was with you guys. I'm just, if you could reflect on him, his success, has goalie Bob said anything? And also, just is it analogous in some way to your situation? He's waited 16 years for this chance. You had all those years between Washington and Boston. Does it feel familiar to you?
I mean, yeah, clearly you always want an opportunity to, to get back at it. And I think for Dobie, he's carved out a nice career for himself in the National Hockey League and did a good job for us. And I think it obviously gave him confidence. He, won a lot of games, played well, worked on his game with goalie Bob. And, certainly Bob deserves some credit for that part. But Dobie's the one that has to get in there and manage it. So we're happy for him. He was always a popular guy, great personality. And then I look at a bit like Yarrow, certainly a guy that played a lot of hockey this year for Dallas behind Bishop, just like Yarrow did behind Tuukka. So you got a two-headed monster in that. I think both teams are very comfortable in front of their backups, and that matters too. You can't be nervous out there with, if you don't trust your goaltender. So, and obviously, you look at the goals against numbers, two of the top teams. So, not surprised by it for Dobie, not surprised by it for Yarrow. Two good goaltenders getting an opportunity, and here we are.
Go to Jimmy Murphy.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, Jimmy.
Just wondering, when you look at these two teams, Tampa and Boston, do you consider this a rivalry now? I know, we can't put it on the level of Canadians, Bruins or something, but, the intensity of it, the way you guys are so evenly matched, I guess as a hockey fan, how excited do you get up for this matchup?
Well, I do, because it's to me like cream of the crop going at each other. And I do consider a rivalry. Maybe, you're always going to have the original six. That's not going away, anytime soon. But the modern day, I looked at it like with Boston and Pittsburgh earlier in the decade, right? They had some good matchups, good playoff matchups, and two good teams that were winning, top-end players. And now we've kind of evolved over towards Tampa Bay simply because they're in our division. And now we're getting them in the playoffs a little more, and both teams have had a certain level of success. So I like the rivalry simply because it brings out the best in everybody, got respect for their organization. So I think both teams play hard and try to do it the right way. So, yes, to answer your question, and I think it can only grow from here as well.
Go to Stephen Conroy.
Hey, Bruce, how you doing?
I'm good, Steve. You're batting cleanup today. Usually you're leadoff hitter.
Yeah, I'm actually third, the power spot. Kasha, he's had a ton of grade A chances, and they haven't gone for him. It hasn't seemed like it's affected any other part of his game. But is there a concern when a player gets that snake bitten that it will?
No, not yet. I think that concern comes in when the team's not winning, Steve. Everyone puts a little more pressure on themselves. As long as we're winning and you're getting your chances, typically you're comfortable with your game, and the fact that you haven't quite finished, you'll keep pushing through. So let's hope that we keep A, winning, and B, he gets rewarded for his efforts. So that's how I look at it. Only he can answer that. It certainly hasn't affected his demeanor. He's always in a good mood around the rink. He's on the ice yesterday, on the ice for an optional this morning. So he continues to work at his game, and I don't think it's affected his play away from the puck. We're still getting to know all his details of his game. We haven't seen him a lot, but work ethic, second effort on the puck is continues to be there every day. So that's what we need out of him. And like I said, hopefully he catches a break here and gets one to go for him, because he might be that streaky guy, a bit like Jake when he gets hot.
We'll go to Mike Loftus.
Clean up.
Clean up, Mike.
Unmuted, Mike. Bruce, the Brandon Carlo, it's not down a ton, but he's down at around 17 minutes in the last handful of games. Is that just a function of how you guys are kind of mixing and matching, adding, to Charlie McAvoy's ice time, things like that? Or?
Yeah, I don't think it's any reflection on his game. Some of it is we've put a little more onus on Charlie. I think with ozone draws, we use Charlie as much as anybody. I think we have the option on the left side of Grizz or Torrey that we look at our guys that are on the power play. So you got one righty that plays the power play, two lefties. So I think, Kevin is, tilted towards Charlie more often. You might see a little bit of that regress in Charlie's case and jump up a little for Brando when you play back-to-backs and the way the schedule looks going forward. Obviously, in the playoffs, it's one game at a time, and you're trying to stay in the moment. But we got to be respectful of that, that issue that could come up down the road. So we want to make sure we balance it as much as possible. And some of it also, Mike, would be that we're not in the box as much. So that's where Brandon, he gets a lot more minutes is when we're on the kill. And if we stay out of the box, his numbers may be down a little because of that as well.
Go to Joe Haggerty.
Pretty good choice for the 5-hole. I was not all or nothing hitter back in the day. Butchie, the power play, was there a lot of discussion going into this series of keeping Krejci on that top unit, or was it a matter of, the power play looked so good in that Game 5 against Carolina, sticking with it? I know this is a look that when everybody's healthy, we haven't seen a ton from you guys over the years.
Very little discussion about it. I'm the one that makes that final call. I have a lot to do with the power play kind of script, how we're going to go about it. So obviously work with Pando on that, but the discussion was with David and Brad as much as anything, because they're the guys that, Kretsch gets on his strong side and Brad moves from the half wall to the front of the net. So as long as, they're comfortable with what we're trying to accomplish here, they've seen results. And when you don't see results, that's when players sort of question what your plan is. I think they've moved it around well. I think Brad has a lot of respect for Kretsch and what he can do on the power play. So certainly amenable to that. It means that, like I said before, a little more of a greasy role for him, a little more probably bumps and bruises when you play the net front, but that's what we need right now. And it's what's making us go. If it doesn't, we'll look to, adapt and change things up. But right now it's worked out for us, and we're gonna kind of keep on keeping on and until there's lack of success, and we'll have to revisit it.
Go to Mike Seisberger.
Yeah, how you doing, Bruce?
Good, Mike.
Just wondering, with McDonough not playing for Tampa tonight, you guys have been through stuff like that as well. Pastor couldn't play for a lot of games in the first round, and that. Obviously with Tuukka too. What this time of year, how important is it for that next man up mentality? Obviously McDonough is a guy that plays a key role for them.
Well, I don't think you win without it. There's very few teams I can imagine that can skate right through without some level of injury. Depends how serious it is. That's the next thing. Does it affect the psyche of the team if it's long-term? Like a Stamkos, like a Tuukka leaving for us. So, and then who's next up? We were comfortable with Halak, just like, earlier question. Dallas seems very comfortable with Hudobin. So who's going in? Does the team trust that player? Do they have the ability? How does the coach use them? Do they have the ability to just do what McDonough did? Or, when we lost Pasternak, we moved Bjork up with the understanding that he's not going to replace David Pasternak, even though he's replacing him his spot in the lineup. He just needs to play his game. So, and then the guys around him, Marshy and Berge knew that they had to probably give a little more if we were going to advance with Pasta out, and it trickled down. Kretsch recognized that as well, specifically on the power play. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. And how does your team handle it? How mentally tough are they with the next guy? And to me, it's that simple. Next man up, yes, it helps to have depth. That's when the organizational, the scouting and the GM, that's when they really earn, their keep, when they're able to identify those guys that can come into the lineup on short notice and still be effective players. Because it's not that easy to not play for a while and have to get up to speed in the National Hockey League playoffs. That's the other thing people don't forget. If you haven't played for a while, all of a sudden get tossed in there at the high intensity. Not that easy for a player. So the guys with the mindset that can do that is also, I think that's a big benefit.
We'll go to Matt Porter.
Hi, Bruce. I don't know where we are in the lineup now. the 18 hits for the fourth line in game one, obviously a pretty high number. And you talk a lot about when this topic is raised, you talk about not chasing the hits. And I'm curious what you saw in that regard in game one from the fourth line. Were they running around, or were they, judicious in their laying of the wood, so to speak?
No, I thought they were fine. Good, solid contact. They reload for one another. When one guy's finishing a check, a couple other guys are probably, taking a read on, well, is he on the right side of the puck after the check? Did the puck advance up the ice, or did they go back with it? Well, there's different ways you can string 3 or 4 hits together if your 4 checks on time. If the puck moves up the ice, then it's one and done, and the other 2 guys have to make sure in their good defensive posture and probably check with their legs or their stick or both. So, and then those guys, they read well off each other. I think, they certainly had guys out there banging, so kind of matching each other hit for hit. Not atypical for a playoff game, especially game one. You're trying to kind of, mark your territory, so to speak, with the physicality part, and they were very good at it. Stayed out of the box. I thought, the Wagner call was a scrum in front of the net. Not sure what he did to deserve that, but at the end of the day, they decided to take us, and that happens too in the playoffs. So I thought they had good discipline, played their game, and helped us win a game. And what the hits, penalty kill, other things that don't show up in the score sheet necessarily. They did their job there, kept Tampa off the board. So good for them.
Our last question for the coach will be Dan Roche.
Hey, Bruce, you can consider me either the number 8 or 9 hitter, depending upon what you're looking at. Try to keep the line moving and stay consistent.
Hit your weight. You got to at least hit your weight when you're.
Yeah, I hit 280 in high school, so I was a little bit above it. Just a quick thought on, obviously winning is the most important thing, but what would you like to see your team improve on from game one into game two, and any lineup changes?
There'll be no lineup changes. Improvements. I think when in the ozone, when we went low to high with our D, the point shots could be better placed. Get more of dangerous ice if it's available. If when Tampa floods originally and collapses, that try to expose them if we're able to get out of that kind of trap. Second period, I thought our line changes were a little bit off. Gave them some opportunities to get going up ice. And then they're de-joining the rush, obviously. They do a good job with that. So I'm not saying we did a poor job recognizing that. It's just awareness of it. Hedman scored a couple goals. I know both of them were kind of went in off Charlie, but he's a threat. When you have a guy like Stamkos out that they're used to having score goals for them, they got to get it elsewhere. They've changed their lineup a little this year, be a little more gritty, so probably lost a little up front, and that's where their D pick up the slack well for them. So that's an area that we have to make sure that we're honoring every time we go over the boards, that they've got some firepower in the back end. But other than that, I thought we played hard, they played hard. Like I said, we were one save better, or one kind of play we finished better than them in the long run, and it's on to game two.
Thanks very much, Coach, for your time today. That'll conclude our Bruins media availability. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.